My name is Catalina Rowan, 33 years old. For most of my life, I've been told I was the responsible one. It wasn't praise, it was a sentence. Being responsible meant being the daughter who didn't complain, the one who understood that love in our family came with conditions and unspoken debts. My parents, Deborah and Richard, always meant well, or at least that's what I told myself. Dad, 62, has been chasing the title of businessman longer than I've been alive, clinging to schemes that start bright and end in smoke. Mom, 58, floats between his dreams and my sister's whims like she's trying to hold two worlds together with her bare hands. And then there's Ashley, 29, interior designer, social butterfly, walking ray of curated perfection. Mom calls her our sunshine girl. I'm the one who never needed much, which is their polite way of saying invisible. Growing up, Ashley got the car, the parties, the new clothes. I got advice about budgeting and lectures on independence. When she wanted something, the whole household bent around her desire. When I needed something, I learned to find my own way. So I did. Scholarships, 2 jobs through college, a career that pays more than both of them combined, a life built from scratch. Funny how success doesn't change what people see, it only sharpens the contrast. 3 years ago, Ashley called me sobbing over 10 grand of credit card debt. It's just the minimum payments, she'd said, voice cracking. I can't keep up. I wired her the money before she even stopped crying. A month later, I asked, lightly, I thought, when she might start paying me back. Her face twisted like I'd slapped her. You're seriously asking your sister for money back? That's tacky, Kat. Family doesn't keep tabs. So I didn't. 2 years ago, it was my parents. Their roof leaked, their foundation cracked, and Dad's newest import business had imploded. Repair estimate, $30,000. I paid it without hesitation. I even threw in an anniversary trip to Hawaii because Mom couldn't stop hinting that they'd never had a real vacation. Every month, I sent money for groceries, medical bills, even the occasional unexpected vet cost for a dog I didn't remember them adopting. It was fine. I told myself it was love, until love started feeling like a transaction. Every holiday, I drove home with gifts and food, and Mom would say, awkward smile in place, "Oh, the guest rooms are taken, dear, but stay for dinner," meaning come, perform, leave. By last Thanksgiving, I stood on their porch, knocking for 10 minutes, before the neighbor wandered over to tell me they'd gone to another family's dinner. No message, no call, just gone. I cried the whole drive back to Austin. It was the kind of crying that doesn't make noise, just silent shaking while the highway lights smear across the windshield like ghosts. When Ashley announced her engagement, I let myself believe maybe this would be different. A fresh start. Maybe being part of her wedding would finally mean I belonged. I joined a gym, lost 15 pounds, bought a silk dress that cost more than any outfit I'd ever owned, spent nights writing a speech about sisterhood and forgiveness. I even imagined her smiling through tears when I read it. Last Friday, I stopped by Mom's to show her the dress photos. She was stirring coffee in that chipped blue mug she's had since I was 10. I said, "I can't believe the wedding's next week. The dress is perfect. Do you want to hear the speech?" Her hand froze midair. The spoon clinked against porcelain. "The wedding," she said quietly. "Yeah, Saturday the 18th. I pulled the invitation from my bag, proud to prove I'd gotten every detail right. Mom stared at it for a long, silent moment. Then she set it down, eyes fixed on the countertop. "Kat, the wedding was last week." It felt like someone had cut the air out of the room. "What?" I laughed, small and brittle. "That's impossible. We sent you the wrong date." "You sent me the wrong date?" My voice came out thin, stunned. "How do you accidentally send your daughter a fake date for her sister's wedding?" She opened her mouth, closed it, fidgeted with her wedding ring. It wasn't intentional. I just stood there. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere outside, a bird sang like nothing had happened. "This wasn't an accident," I whispered. "You don't make a typo that precise." Mom said nothing. Her silence was the loudest confession I'd ever heard. I left before she could invent a new lie. In the car, I tried to breathe, tried to keep the steering wheel steady while the world blurred through tears. By the time I reached my apartment, I couldn't see through the haze. I collapsed on the couch and let the sobs finally come. An hour later, I did something I'd avoided since Ashley announced her engagement. I opened Instagram. There it was, photos from the happiest day of her life. Ashley radiant in white, Brandon beaming. Mom and Dad front row, arms around each other like a perfect picture frame. Cousins, friends, aunts. Even Great Aunt Martha, who could barely travel anymore. Everyone was there. Everyone except me. My phone rang. Julia, our cousin who'd always been the closest thing to an ally. Hey, Kat, did you go to the wedding? I didn't see you in any pictures. Apparently, I said, my throat tightening. I had the wrong date. Julia hesitated. Wait, what? Yeah, the wrong date. I don't buy that, she said. You were fine when we talked a few weeks ago. And at the reception, I overheard something. Maybe I shouldn't. Please, I whispered. Tell me. She sighed. I was grabbing my coat, and your mom and Ashley were in the hall. They didn't know I was there. Your mom said, at least Kat's not here to make everything about her success and her money. And Ashley laughed. Said, right. She'd probably bring up her promotion at least 5 times. Then they both laughed. The world tilted. Julia, I said slowly, thank you. I'm so sorry, Kat. When we hung up, I stared at the wall until my vision blurred. $10,000 for my sister, $30,000 for my parents, countless love you texts that meant we need you. All those years, I mistook convenience for affection. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat at my kitchen table surrounded by receipts of their emergencies. The numbers blurred into memories. Ashley's laughter, Mom's praise when I paid a bill, Dad's grateful handshake that always came too easily. I thought about every version of myself that believed family meant forgiveness no matter what. Then I thought about the folder in my desk, the one labeled Hill Country Purchase Agreement, and the joint account I still hadn't closed because, according to Mom, it's good to have a shared safety net. I opened my phone. The last message from her blinked at the top of the thread. Mom, Dad needs $300 for some car parts. Can you Venmo it today? Love you. Love you. I stared at those words until they didn't look like words anymore. Then I grabbed my keys. It was time to stop paying for affection. Time to have a real conversation. Not about money, about respect. As I locked my apartment door, I caught my reflection in the dark hallway mirror. My eyes were red but steady. For the first time in years, I wasn't the invisible daughter. I was someone about to make herself seen. The next morning, I unlocked the bottom drawer of my desk. Inside was the folder I'd labeled Hill Country Purchase Agreement 5 years ago. Paper so crisp it still smelled faintly of ink and dust. That house had once been my parents' pride. 5 acres of wild Texas hills and a stone terrace where Dad swore he'd retire someday. When their business collapsed again, foreclosure loomed. They were weeks from losing everything. So I bought it. $200,000, cash. Every cent I'd saved since college. I told them it was temporary, a safety net until Dad got back on his feet. I never charged them rent. Never reminded them it was legally mine. It was for family, after all. Now, staring at those papers, the word felt hollow. I called Sarah Collins, my lawyer. She'd helped me with corporate contracts before, someone I could trust to stay calm when I couldn't. Sarah, it's Kat, I said. I need you to review something personal. 2 hours later, she sat across from me in my office, scanning each page with deliberate precision. Her expression didn't change until the last sheet. Catalina, she said finally, you own this property outright. They signed the deed over. They have no legal claim. If you wanted, you could serve 30 days' notice and evict them. Do I want to? I murmured. That's the question. Sarah studied me. You don't have to decide today, but I'll draft the paperwork just in case. After she left, I couldn't shake the itch crawling up my spine, the need to see the place again, to remind myself what my money had built and what they'd taken for granted. The Hill Country house was an hour's drive from Austin. The road wound through stretches of oak and limestone cliffs, sunlight flickering through the trees like a strobe. When I turned up the long gravel driveway, my stomach twisted. There were cars parked outside, at least 4. I frowned. My parents hadn't mentioned visiting. The front door was unlocked. Voices drifted from inside. Laughter, footsteps, the clink of glass. Hand-selected from a Montana quarry, someone was saying. I froze. I knew that voice. Ashley. Peering through the entryway, I saw her standing by the stone fireplace, gesturing with polished confidence to a couple in designer suits and a younger assistant tapping on a tablet. This was my biggest challenge, Ashley said. The renovation took 6 months, but as you can see, it paid off. My jaw tightened. Her renovation? The stones came from a local supplier. I still had the Home Depot receipt for $800 installation. She led them towards the kitchen, heels clicking on the hardwood I'd refinished myself one summer weekend. I designed this backsplash personally. Imported tiles from Italy, $30,000 just for materials. That was enough. I stepped fully into the room. Interesting, I said, my voice cutting through the air, because I remember paying Tony from Home Depot $800 for it. Ashley spun around, face draining of color. Kat, what are you doing here? I could ask you the same. The clients exchanged uneasy glances. The man in the suit spoke first. Excuse me, is there an issue here? Ashley forced a smile. No, my sister's just confused. I pulled out my phone, opening the scanned deed. No confusion. This property has been mine for 5 years. Here's the proof. The assistant leaned closer, reading the document on my screen. The man's expression hardened. You told us this was your home, Ms. Rowan, he said coldly. You guaranteed ownership before we agreed to preview for our furniture campaign. It's a family property, Ashley stammered. We all use it. We don't, I cut in. I bought this house when our parents were facing foreclosure. Ashley's never paid a dime toward it. She doesn't even have a key. The woman with the tablet snapped it shut. This is unacceptable. You've wasted our time. They walked out, heels echoing like gunfire on the floorboards. Ashley turned to me, trembling with fury. Do you have any idea what you just cost me? That was an $80,000 contract. I folded my arms. No, Ashley, you cost yourself. Lying is expensive. She glared at me, eyes glassy with unshed tears. I'm telling Mom and Dad about this. Go ahead, they can't fix it this time. She stormed past me, perfume trailing like smoke, and slammed the door. Hard enough to rattle the glass. When silence settled, I finally looked around. The living room was perfect, the way I'd designed it years ago, but the perfection felt staged now, hollow, every cushion in place, every surface gleaming, yet no warmth. I sank onto the couch and stared at the fireplace. My hands were shaking. I wasn't angry at losing a client I'd never wanted. I was angry at how natural the line came to her. It wasn't just the wedding. It was years of rewriting history, turning every act of kindness into a favor she'd done me. A knock startled me. Locksmith, a man's voice called. I'd almost forgotten I'd made the call from my car earlier. Come in, I said. He replaced the locks, handed me the new keys. You're all set. Only you have access now. Thank you. When he left, the house felt heavier, quieter. I walked room to room, locking windows, checking doors. By the time I reached the terrace, dusk had settled over the hills. The last light caught the edge of the pool, scattering reflections across the glass. My phone buzzed, an unknown number. It stopped after one ring. Probably Ashley, or Mom. For a moment, I almost called back. Then I remembered the fake invitation, the laughter in Julia's story, and the way Mom had fiddled with her ring instead of telling me the truth. I slipped the phone into my pocket and looked out across the hills. This house had two faces, one for them, one for me. They saw a symbol of what I owed them. I saw a record of everything they'd taken. And for the first time, I realized those two versions couldn't coexist anymore. The line had been drawn. 2 days after confronting Ashley, I walked into David Thompson's office downtown, the kind of place where the carpet feels like money and the coffee machine costs more than my first car. Sarah Collins was already there, calm as ever, a briefcase resting neatly beside her chair. David looked up from his computer. Catalina, Sarah tells me you want to restructure your finances. That's one way to put it, I said. I want every tie to my family severed. Joint accounts, shared cards, beneficiary designations, everything. He nodded slowly, fingers tapping the keyboard. All right, let's see what we're working with. The screen glowed blue in the dim light as he pulled up my profile, his brow furrowed. Interesting. There's an old joint account with your parents opened about 8 years ago. I know, I admitted. It was for emergencies. Mom wanted a shared safety net. Well, he said, turning the monitor toward me, they've been using it. My stomach dropped. Using it how? 3,000 withdrawn last month, 1,500 2 weeks ago, 800 yesterday morning. Yesterday? I repeated. That was after I confronted them. Sarah's eyes narrowed. They're still pulling from you, Kat. David leaned back. Balance left, about 12,000. Shall I transfer it to a new account under your name only? Do it, I said. Close the joint one completely. I want them notified. He began typing. Consider it done. I exhaled, trying to steady the shaking in my hands. What about other accounts? David clicked through my portfolio. You've listed your parents and sister as beneficiaries on a few investment and retirement funds. Remove them. Sarah watched me, her voice soft but firm. You're sure about this? I nodded, completely. David printed out the forms. Each signature I made felt like cutting another invisible cord around my neck. By the 10th page, my pen hand trembled. "There's one more," David said, sliding a document forward. "This revokes their power of attorney or any right to act on your behalf. They'll lose all access to your information." I signed it without hesitation. My phone buzzed. Ashley. I ignored it. Then another buzz. Mom. I flipped the screen over. Sarah noticed. "Do you want to talk about it?" "No, talking is what got me into this mess. I'm just finishing what I started." David stacked the papers neatly. "All right, Catalina, you're officially independent. No joint finances, no cosigns, no beneficiaries. You're free." The word hung in the air like an echo. Free. For the first time in years, I didn't feel obligated to anyone. But the feeling was strange, like standing on a cliff after cutting the rope that tied you to the ledge. I walked out into the sunlight, blinded for a second by its sharpness. Austin's air smelled different that day. Cleaner, lighter, unfamiliar. As I reached my car, my phone buzzed again. "Ashley, Kat, I'm sorry. Please don't shut us out. We're family." Family. The same word they used when they wanted money. I deleted the message. That night, I poured myself another glass of wine, set it on the kitchen counter, and opened my laptop. Hundreds of photos stared back at me. Holidays, birthdays, gifts I'd bought. Their smiles looked fake now, almost rehearsed. A notification popped up. New email from Mom. Subject, forgive us. I hovered over it, then hit delete. Whatever she had to say, I'd heard it all before. The next morning, my assistant knocked on my office door. Security called. "Your parents are downstairs. They're demanding to see you." Of course they were. I took the elevator down, each floor ding echoing like a countdown. They stood by the security desk, Dad in his worn blazer, Mom clutching her purse like a lifeline. They looked smaller than I remembered. "Catalina," Mom said softly, "please, we need to talk." About what? The withdrawals? The lies? Tears welled in her eyes. "We never meant to hurt you. You have to understand. We were embarrassed. You've done so much for us, and you repaid me by lying about a wedding date?" Dad stepped forward. "It was Ashley's idea. We thought if you came, it might make things awkward. Brandon's family already thinks she relies on you too much. We just wanted peace for one day." I laughed, short and bitter. "Peace? You excluded your daughter for peace?" He looked away. I reached into my bag, pulled out my phone, and opened the video Julia had sent me, a clip from the wedding. Ashley raised a champagne glass, laughing. "It's a good thing Kat isn't here to steal my attention." Mom's face went pale. Dad's shoulders sagged. Security guards watched quietly from a few steps away. "Please," Mom whispered. "At least let us use the country house for a while. The business failed again. We took out a loan against our home. The bank's foreclosing. We have nowhere to go." I stared at her. "You mean my house, the one you sold to me?" Mom reached out. "We can fix this." I stepped back. "No, you've used me enough." Dad's hand shot out, gripping my arm. "We're sorry. Please, Catalina, we're your parents." I looked down at his hand, then back at his face. Parents don't use their children like banks. They don't lie to them and laugh behind their backs. He let go slowly. Mom started to cry, quietly at first, then harder. People in the lobby pretended not to watch. I turned to the head of security. "Please escort them out." He nodded gently. As they were led toward the glass doors, I caught Mom's voice breaking through the sobs. "You'll regret this, Catalina. Family is all you have." I didn't answer. When the doors closed, the silence that followed felt heavier than any apology. I walked back towards the elevator, head high, every step echoing on marble. As the doors slid shut, my phone buzzed again. An alert from my bank. Failed login attempt detected. Someone was still trying to get in. I stared at the notification, then at my reflection in the elevator's mirror. For the first time, I didn't feel afraid. I just felt done. 6 months later, I stood on the terrace of the Hill Country House, the same stone tiles where my father once promised to retire. Now it was my place, quiet, clean, free. The sun was sinking low over the hills, washing the sky in a molten orange that melted into violet. Laughter drifted from inside, where my promotion party was in full swing. "Cheers to Senior Director Catalina Rowan." Sarah raised her glass, the stem catching the last rays of light. Everyone cheered, glasses clinking. Julia was there too, smiling, her hair pulled into a loose bun. For a moment, it felt like family, just not the one I was born into. I smiled back, but my eyes wandered to the horizon. Freedom, I realized, doesn't come with music and applause. It comes in silence. The kind that doesn't ache anymore. When the guests moved inside, I lingered on the terrace alone, tracing the rim of my wine glass. My phone buzzed with a notification. New email. Mom. The subject line read, Anniversary Party Invitation. I stared at it for 2 seconds, then pressed delete. The clink of laughter carried through the open doors. Kat, you have to make a toast, someone called. I stepped inside, raised my glass. To new beginnings, I said, my voice steady. To choosing peace, even when it costs you blood. Applause filled the room. Later, after everyone had gone, I stood by the pool as the water mirrored the night sky. My reflection stared back at me, tired, older, but calm. I thought about Dad's shaking hand when he grabbed my arm in the lobby, about Mom's voice cracking when she said I'd regret it. So far, I didn't. Still, some nights, the quiet felt too deep. Guilt tried to creep in. What if I'd gone too far? What if forgiveness was the next step? But then I'd remember the wedding photos, the fake invitations, the laughter at my expense. Forgiveness isn't weakness, I told myself. It's wisdom. And wisdom knows when to stop handing out second chances. Julia's voice echoed from earlier that week over coffee. You won't believe this, Kat. Ashley and Brandon got blacklisted from half the design firms in Austin. Word spread fast after that client fiasco. I'd smiled faintly. The same clients from my house? Yep, no one wants to touch her now. They can barely make rent. And my parents? Julia sighed. Sold their house to pay off debts. Moved into a tiny place near Eastview. Your mom won't let anyone visit. Says she's too embarrassed. Do they still blame me? Of course, they tell everyone you abandoned them. But don't worry, people know the real story. Now, in the glow of the terrace lights, I whispered, let them. I walked back inside and tidied up the empty glasses, the faint scent of champagne still hanging in the air. My phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. Brandon, I just wanted to apologize again. I should have called you myself about the wedding. If you ever need me to confirm what really happened, I will. You didn't deserve any of it. I stared at it, unmoving, then locked my screen. I didn't need a statement. The truth already existed, and I'd finally stopped needing anyone to validate it. In the weeks that followed, I spent more time here. Barbecues on weekends, morning coffee by the pool, friends who came because they wanted to, not because they needed something. One evening, when the air was thick with the scent of cedar and rain, I sat at the terrace table with my journal open. I started writing a letter to my parents. Mom, Dad, I loved you more than you'll ever know. But love without respect is just noise. I wish you peace, even if it's not beside me. I stared at the words, then tore the page out and burned it in an ashtray. Watching the smoke rise felt better than sending it ever would. Inside, my phone buzzed once more, a call from an unfamiliar number. I let it ring until it stopped. Minutes later, a notification appeared. Bank alert, unauthorized login attempt blocked. I almost laughed. Even now, they were still trying. But I'd learned something. You can't steal what's already been taken back. I poured myself another glass of wine, stepping out onto the terrace again. The night hummed softly with crickets. The pool glowed turquoise beneath the stars. I raised my glass to the horizon. To the quiet I built myself, I said softly. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of jasmine and summer grass. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't waiting for a call, an apology, or a reason to explain my worth. I had everything I needed, real friends who cared, a home that was truly mine, a peace that didn't ask permission to exist. My parents and sister had made their choices, greed over love, jealousy over truth, and I had made mine, freedom over guilt, boundaries over begging, peace over pretense. I took a long breath, letting the night wrap around me like a promise. The world was finally silent, and for once, I didn't mind the quiet at all.